What's up, guys? How are you? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Send me some donuts if you can hear and see me, because I have an error. It says it's not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. So, let's see. Can you see and hear? Technology is wonderful. I've got my Olipop, I've got my books, I've got some psychology books. Jethro says, whoa, the whole bookcase. Yes, there are many of these in the house. Donuts, they can see and hear. Okay, good. Here is the Dono Chat link. This is the show where I teach you about magic and you throw donuts in my mouth. So, just picture me like Homer Simpson, mouth open, waiting for donuts, and you just sprinkle them all over my chat. If you can't afford an actual donation, then just send me some donuts. I like that just as much. Ooh, burgers. Yeah, that looks good. So we're trying to see what times of day are better to stream for y'all. Do you like nighttime or daytime? I'm a night person, but a lot of you guys like to tune in the daytime, and also overseas you get to watch live if we do it in the daytime. So I thought we'd start off this show with this crazy video I found, and it's from someone that I had never heard of. And I thought I'd heard of everybody in the conspiracy, but it turns out I missed this one, and it was really up our alley. So let me find it. It is, what's his name? Russ Dizdar. Y'all ever heard of Russ Dizdar? This is just something I came across on YouTube from End Times Productions. It's an interview from 2 years ago. They're interviewing Russ Dizdar. Oh, I did have a bio on him. Hold on, let me grab it. Anybody heard of old Russ Dizdar? He was a former police chaplain at the University of Akron Police Department and was permitted to teach on occult satanic crimes. He works with the victims of satanic ritual abuse, investigated satanic rituals, occult crimes, and mind control. Shatter the Darkness, which is his website, engages extraordinary underground growth of satanic ritual abuse and its connection to the Nazis' government. Aw, I said a bad word. Oh well. Shh. Don't tell YouTube I said that word. Government programs, program assassins, and he has spent thousands of hours working with many victims and is an investigation of the connection in ritual crimes. As a demonologist, he has studied both the scriptures and has researched the underworld for over 40 years. This has led to the vast work he is doing right now as he engages the underground of satanic ritual abuse, human TRAFF, I caught it, and the global network of what the scripture called the mystery of lawlessness. So, I came across this video and he was talking about the Black Awakening. So, what he describes is kind of like there'll come a day when all of the people who are sleeper, super soldier, under mind control, dedicated Satanist, they will be given a signal or a sign and unleashed on the population to cause chaos. And it just reminded me of The Purge. Now, this stuff is pretty out there, but so are we. And anyone who is coming to this tiny little live stream is probably one of the smartest people around. You're probably the smartest person that you know if you're tuning in here. So I'm going to play you a video of him just to kick it off and wait for some other people to trickle in, some other day watchers. And then we're going to get into the last part of sorcery and technology that we were talking about last week, and talk about psychology and the psychology of evil. And I know that title kind of makes it seem like we're going to be doing like psychological profiles like they do on, Mindhunter or Silence of the Lambs or something like that. But honestly, we're just going to be talking about the evil of psychology, actually, and the whole profession, how it started, where it's going, how they use technology and psychology to turn you into a total undetectable mind control slave. So let's play this while we wait for everybody to get to the party. And I'm sorry I am so boomer tech, but that's what you guys love about me. I'm just going to play this, holding it on my phone and holding it up. So here we go. Here's Russ Dizdar talking about the Black Awakening.
You have no idea how many. You have no idea what's coming. We smell Christian blood. We are waiting for our day. And when the call is given, millions of us will be released. And they looked at me and said, you believe in revivals, and you believe in Pentecost and the power of God. You believe in all that. We believe in the Black Awakening. So I look at you or I look here?
It's up to you. So, all right. What is the Black Awakening?
It's related to the Red Horse prophecy in Revelation. It's related to 2 Thessalonians 2, when it says about the day of the Lord, the parousia. That day will not occur until the apocalypse of the Antichrist and the apostasia, the word rebellion or revolt. That's all really defined in the prophecy of the Red Horse. But here's where the term came from and why I used it purposely. When I started dealing with ritually abused individuals, and then we dealt with military-oriented, highly trained, programmed shooters and assassins inside of them. When we began to deal with them, I dealt with someone from Fort Bragg for quite a while, and a few others. We were sitting in a lake, Conneaut Lake. They reached over, ripped open my shirt to see if I was wired, if I was wiring and recording them. And they were the most sophisticated satanic warrior type person. They knew 5-6 languages. They knew the ancient Twilight languages. They knew how to conjure. They knew how to use Belteshazzar, Okwam, all these old Pictish languages of the Druids to summon. They are the real Luciferian. They've been through many human sacrificial things. So they sat there to tell me some of those things, what they've been involved with, how they sacrifice a human. I'm listening to all this stuff from them. And then they said to me, you have no idea, Russ, how many of us there are out there. How many satanic, they use the term, chosen ones. You have no idea how many. You have no idea what's coming. We smell Christian blood. We are waiting for our day. And when the call is given, millions of us will be released. And they looked at me and said, you believe in revivals, and you believe in Pentecost and the power of God. You believe in all that. We believe in the Black Awakening, a multi-continental release of power to activate the program demonized, where they've weaponized the demonic powers to these super soldiers.
Are they waiting for a specific time to unleash their power?
Yeah, they are, because they have to do it at the moment the Antichrist is, like you read in 2 Thessalonians 2, that it's caught to echo, the restrainer is holding back the apocalypse of the Antichrist, the unveiling in his movement. So right now he's held restrained. Soon as he who restrains is removed, soon as that occurs, we have White Horse, the release of the Antichrist. Instantly, we have the release of the red. It says the whole earth. Arene, peace is taken for the whole earth, and all of a sudden, it doesn't give the details, but all of a sudden, on a global scale, people are released to begin to, and the Greek word is sphadzo, slaughter, begin to slaughter people. It's used of animal ritual butchery to begin to slaughter individuals. That's exactly how they defined it to me back in the 90s. And we've heard this again and again and again. So that scenario fits the Masonic version of chaos before a new order. It fits Father Meridon from the Cathedral of the Black Goat, his book, The Devil's Bible. It fits that scenario too. So some of the oldest, darkest occultists, the idea of chaos first, a collapsing of everything so that a new order can rise, that's all by design. And we've been given the heads up in prophecy, but all prophecy has boots on the ground. It'll all eventually happen. So I do believe that millions and millions of these trained, programmed, altered, demonized super soldiers, whether we want to say it or not, they believe they're being raised to help bring the Antichrist in. When I was in England just a few months ago, their top guy that deals with SRA, Wilfred Wong, 25 years. So first time I meet him, I pull him aside and I said, "Listen, you've been doing this 25 years, yeah?" I said, "You know all about programming and demons, all that?" "Yes." I looked right at him and I said, "Wilfred, why are they here in England?" Instantly, he said, "They are here to collapse our government. They are here to help bring in and usher in the Antichrist and a new order." He didn't know. He already knew. That's true in Germany when we were in Germany, when we went to Wedelsberg Castle. That's true in Poland when we went there. That's true in Switzerland. It's true in Canada. So when we talk about our research in 38 years worldwide, there may be well over 100 million generations of them. And if even half, or even if 10% were intact, like say the United States, remember the shooter in Vegas? Look what he did. Look what that guy did. Okay, notice what would happen if 10,000 of them, or like Colorado Holmes, or like Jared in Arizona, what if 10,000 of them were released in 1 week? That's their plot plan, and biblical prophecies ahead of that to say here is what is going to happen, and from that a global monetary collapse, and from that's all that chaos is coming. So Revelation 13, a whole new order with the Antichrist can come.
Scary stuff.
Yeah, can be. It's scary for the world. For us, yeah. We know no matter what. Yeah.
Emboldened with the Holy Spirit. Yeah. So next question. This is a two-part question. First part: does SRA exist, and if so, how prevalent is it in society today?
Yeah, satanic ritual abuse, and I could say it this way: it not only exists. Satanic ritual abuse is inseparably connected to multiple personality disorder. All of society knows since the late 70s, and even DSM-3, DSM-4, those are the diagnostic manuals for psychology. They all know that all of a sudden, multiplicity started showing up everywhere. They call it DID now. So the secular world, they're registering, millions coming in for diagnosis on that. Now, they don't know how to handle the satanic side. So I'm going to tell you just straight out, after 38 years of dealing with it, not only is SRA real here in the United States, that there are millions of victims by design, that there's now generations of them. We deal with 65 and 70-year-olds. They're the first generation. Then we go to 40-year-olds and 20-year-olds. I got 8-year-olds and 12-year-olds we're dealing with. Because if you don't stop this somewhere, they do it to the next generation. That's by design. That's the way it's supposed to be for them. So, but it occurs in selection. It's generational. It and simply to say that they bring a lot of trauma to the child to cause split in personality, so that they can demonize and or begin to program. You're going to be a witch. You're going to be a conjurer. You're going to be a program shooter. All kinds of these things happen. And then they're raised in that system, and they're raised to keep all of that hidden down and just have kind of little Joey up or little Sally up, and they may not know until they're 15, 16, they may not know what's inside them till later on. But millions have already showed up at psych wards all across America since the late 70s to this day. We look at a child and automatically we're going to protect them, save them, guard them, whatever it takes. They look at a child, they'd eat it alive, they destroy it, they'd torture it. You gotta remember, that's their nature. And so, if they could show more of their nature to a defenseless child, They love that. That's why some rituals are called demon revels or satanic revels. The younger the child, here's exactly what dark undergrounders have said to me. The younger, the better. And we never kill them right away. We prolong the torture. Why? Because we have to raise the energies, the terror, the fear, and then little by little letting some blood out, because blood is and all that torment. It's like, think in terms of rats and garbage. Some smelly old garbage draws the rats. A ritual with all that torture, with all that pain, ultimately prescribed by the demons in the first place, it draws them. And once they begin to open the blood gate, that's what they attach to in the context ritual. Then when a child or a human is killed, that's when the demons are released to the practitioners. So it's all about their unsatiable hatred of God. Anything they can do to harm humanity, harm innocence as an attack on God in a sense. There's no question in their nature, they don't shed a tear. They don't have any mercy. So they'll harm, and they love that as part of the entrance to come into this side. Here's the other side of it. We've been to Canada, Scotland, Geneva, Switzerland, Germany, Poland. They're all over there. We just got back from Scotland, UK, and we met one of the guys there, one of the leaders in the whole nation on the subject, and same issue. It stems from the original Nazis creating a master race. Wherever the Nazis went in the early 50s, rat lines all around the planet, wherever you see them going to escape, then you see the rise of SRA. So we need to rename this. SRA that's the tools to hammer this in and to augment these people and to bring the demonization and to create them. But really it is part of the master race development that started back in the late 30s. And Himmler's goal was to create 200 million of them. That was his stated goal.
Sorry if I some people are like, this is crazy, making me sick. Yeah, it's really hard to hear, but we have to realize what the world is like and what we're up against. And I know you all thought maybe we were going to be talking about Grammys today, and we will a little bit, but I'm going to wait for the Super Bowl halftime show to come out, and then we'll do a Super Bowl Grammy high profile ritual spectacular probably on Monday, because I did watch the Grammys. I have a whole bunch of notes. I've watched everybody talking about the Grammys. Poor Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift, the funniest part to me about what happened to her at the Grammys is that y'all don't realize working for the devil is not fun. It's not going to bring you happiness. It's not going to make your dreams come true, because she did reach some kind of pinnacle in her career, winning her 13th Grammy, and she even said 13 is my lucky number. She announced she is releasing a new album. She's on top of the world. She's going to the Super Bowl with her hunky boyfriend, Travis Kelce. And what did the public do to Taylor after the Grammys? They dragged her. They dragged her all over, because why? She snubbed Celine Dion, supposedly. She did not do everything perfect. She did not display the ultimate grace and beauty of some kind of queen, goddess that we are supposed to worship. And that's the thing about fame, and that's the thing about getting to these levels, is that you're never going to be good enough to stay on top. And the devil won't let you, and all of those demonized people won't let you, and all of the people that worship you, they're just going to turn on you when you do something that they don't like. So we'll get all into that next week, probably on Monday. We're going to combine the Super Bowl, like I said, with the Grammys. There was so much more than Taylor Swift at the Grammys, but we're going to talk about that next time. So, excuse me, today we're going to talk about psychology and finish off the chapter on sorcerers and robots that we were covering last time. So we talked about the pentagram, the Averse pentagram, how sorcerers sell their soul and that's why they want to extend their life. We talked about Nickelodeons, Hollywood as the new religion, the creation of the television, how that was wrapped up in magic, people from the Golden Dawn, and trying to communicate with spirits in the ether, and that's how we got the first cathode ray tube. We talked about subliminal messages, all those things in Disney. Oh, and then did you guys hear that the girl from Mandalorian, I forgot her name, she was like the muscly girl that was a wrestler or something, and then she was on Mandalorian, a bodybuilder. She is in a lawsuit against Disney, and then Elon Musk jumped on and tweeted, if you want to join this class action lawsuit against Disney. So what we did was send our video that we did on the AJ show about the dark side of Disney and Disney as a military industrial complex. So we'll see if that gets any attention from old Elon. What else was I going to tell you? Lawsuit. Disney. Oh, there was a weird story about a kid disappearing in a bathroom at Disney, one of the theme parks, and they were investigating it and to like underground tunnels and see where this kid disappeared to. Maybe I'll look that one up and bring you the full details next time, because it was gonna get big and then it just kind of died off, so I don't know what happened to that story. So yeah, technology and psychology go hand in hand for the sorcerers trying to take control of your mind and use you as a robotic mind control slave, right? So welcome everybody. We've got Clint, Jethro, Sabrina. Thank you mods for modding. You are the best. Everyone's having a good time. Let's make it rain some donuts in the chat room. I always like seeing those colorful donuts, hamburgers, whatever. Any kind of food you want to throw in my mouth in the chat room is going to be much appreciated. I did miss a super chat last time from Moldy Apple and about Dr. Crispy. I don't think they're here right now, but if they tune in later, last time Moldy Apple said, ask Crispy what his least favorite song is and then sing that. Okay, so Dr. Crispy Rothschild, you're going to have to let me know in a comment or a chat what is your least favorite song. And I was requested to sing that to you by Moldy Apple, so we'll find out what it is. So the methods of subliminals and suggestion and mesmerism, while they're still heavily employed, they're going to be obsolete, if not already obsolete, with things like Neuralink et al. They're not going to have to influence you when they can just straight out control you. And this technology, I mean, at the very least, goes back to 1952 with Jose Delgado. I have a picture here of these poor monkeys that have these electrode thingies hooked into their brain. So the first Neuralink monkeys, by implanting electrodes in the brain and anchoring them to the skull, Jose Delgado and his team were able to remotely control the behavior of these rhesus monkeys. This photo is from the book called Physical Control of the Mind by Jose Delgado. He was one of the MK doctors. If you've ever seen that famous clip about the bull being controlled by remote control, this is the technology that they're using. So they've always used technology, and that, what's that quote? Any advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Was that old Arthur C. Clark himself, I think it was. So the magic and the technology go together. The sorcerers have always used their technological prowess to hypnotize and control the masses. Back in the old-timey sand days, it was knowing astrology and astronomy and the paths of the planets, when eclipses were going to occur, things like that. And you can watch that movie Apocalypto to see exactly how the priest class will control the masses by magic. But all they have is just a technology that the public does not have, which is mapping the stars and calculating things. They have mathematics, calculus, geometry is a big one when we talk about Freemasonry. So one of these techno wizards that we study is Michael Aquino. Is it Aquino or Aquino? Somebody tell me. Is it Quino or Aquino? I would want to say Michael Aquino. But it could be Aquino. Now, here's a funny story. One day, I was on my way to Australia, and one of the fans called up and they said, "Oh, you have a layover in San Francisco. I will pick you up in my limousine." I'm a limousine driver, and I'll show you all around town in San Francisco in our limousine, and I'll take you back to the airport before your connecting flight to Sydney. I guess we had about 8 hours layover, something like that. So we were like, cool, that sounds awesome. And so he picked us up at the airport in his limousine that he was the driver of, and picked up a bunch of friends and fans and his friends and people who wanted to meet us and see, they'd been watching the show and they just want to hang out. So we were just like riding all around San Francisco in this limousine, having a grand old time. And one of the people was like, "Let's go ding dong ditch Michael Aquino." And I was just like, hell no. You think I'm about to get on an international flight and I'm going to run up and hit the doorbell of, this techno wizard of, what was he? Defense Intelligence Agency attaché and teacher of political science. So I had to veto that plan because I did not want to get arrested. I did not want to get put on a no-fly list. I wanted to get to my destination. It would have been funny. They did drive past his house. It's just to show us all in the limousine what it looked like. It wasn't nothing special, but I had to, literally plead with these people not to jump out of the limo and go and run up and ding-dong ditch Michael Aquino. So there's my story of that. I think he passed away. I'm pretty sure he's already passed. And so did Russ Dizdar. So, rest in peace, Russ. So the National Security Agency General, yes, he's a general, Michael Aquino, he was involved with the military intelligence in Vietnam, in Germany, and at the Presidio in San Francisco. So he reported directly to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He worked one-on-one with Dick Cheney. And if you look at pictures of Aquino, I mean, he looks like an evil wizard. He's got the big bushy eyebrows that are in a point. He actually was a student of Anton LaVey, and he left and started his own church, the Temple of Set, because he thought that Satanism wasn't Satan-y enough. He thought they weren't taking it serious, and he also wanted to integrate more technology into his mind control. He wrote a paper called, what was it called? Mind War to Psyop, the Psychology of a Victory. So this is about psychological warfare, which they did use in Vietnam, and they continued to perfect it over here, and this is what we are witnessing. And this is kind of what Russ Dizdar is talking about, making sleeper agents that will awaken, the Black Awakening, when the seal is broken or the trumpet sounds or whatever is going to happen. All of these people will crawl out of the woodwork, and it'll be like the Purge. I'm drinking my Olipop. And we're having fun on a Thursday afternoon. What are you guys talking about? Someone says, watched an interview with an Army NLP specialist who worked with Aquino. He had a Star of David Tree of Life tattoo on one forearm and an atheist anarchist on the other. Yeah. It's kind of like what me and Bailey are going to talk about in The Lost Symbol. All of these people just have this giant hodgepodge of ideologies and esoteric, occultist symbols, and they think that's going to help them in their time of need. It's not. So, do I have a picture of Michael? I don't think so. Not right here. So, he reported to Dick Cheney. He was also a former national commander of the Eagle Scouts Honor Society. Interesting. During his time as a satanic chaplain for the U.S. Army, he was also working on audio warfare. That's what you could call the Grammys and all of this pop music today, audio warfare, right? During battles, they would broadcast demonic-sounding screams from helicopters to scare the Vietnamese. Now, this reminds me of that Alan Moore movie, The Watchmen, where they were using Dr. Manhattan to scare the Vietnamese. And they actually would blast music. I think Wagner was one of the ones that they used out of helicopters to scare the Vietnamese soldiers, right? Someone says, Jamie, you should check out Bambi Thug, Irish Eurovision song entry. Okay. I'll check it out. So, as an army specialist in intelligence and psychological warfare, Aquino became the executive officer of the 306th Psychological Operations Battalion. His thesis was called From Psyop to Mind War, the Psychology of Victory. Yeah. In it, he states that enemy populations could be subdued by inflicting a state of terror and feelings of imminent destruction. Now, tell me if this sounds familiar into what the media do to us here in America. Feelings of imminent destruction, check. He says outbursts of violence could be induced by extremely low frequency or ELF waves piggybacked on broadcasts of radio, television, or microwave communications to manipulate the thoughts and feelings of target populations. Right. So these are also known as psychotronics. These microwave radio frequency radiation weapons, they're designed to influence the central nervous system. This technology can slowly drive a target crazy via silent sound coupled with subliminal suggestion. One can broadcast rage or fear to an individual target to direct and control them. Hallucinations can be induced by electromagnetic frequencies of 500 megahertz. Now, remember when we were talking about magic? I think that one was called zone theory. And we started talking about Simatics. So, obviously, frequencies, radio, sound, songs, all of these invisible weapons tie in to this cymatics that we talked about. Sound vibration effect on matter. Y2K. And there's also that voice to skull. Yes, thank you, Natashki. Exactly, voice to skull. I've never experienced that. It seems really weird. I'm gonna actually make Natashki a mod because she's here all the time. So give me 1 second. Here you go. Have a wrench. I'm throwing them out today. I recognize y'all. I've been trying to go to everyone's chat more often. Go to Jay's chat. Go to Kotel's chat. Go to Tristan. Go to BLA. And I go to Jim Bob just to see who is in the club. So, Naval Intelligence and other groups have conducted research into ELF waves' effect upon the human body and mind. Some of the many things that can be done with this technology include put a person to sleep, make a person feel tired or depressed, create a zombified state or a violent state, a sexually aggressive state. They can change cellular chemistry, hormone levels, and much more. Unfortunately, ELF waves can penetrate almost anything. So, have you ever seen those things that they put in the mall to scatter the teenagers? Like, this is a real thing. If they don't want groups of teens hanging out in a specific place, they'll bring in this thing that emits a sound, like a high-pitched sound that only young kids can hear, or just below their hearing so that they feel uneasy and they don't like congregate in that place. That's actually a real thing. Someone says, are you going to live stream Tucker's Putin interview today? Not today. I think Jay is going to cover that with Jim Bob later on, because that is geopolitics. That's not my strong suit. I think it's really interesting stuff, but I am more... my background is more occult than just straight up politics, because I think the occult and esoteric runs, below surface politics. And so if we understand the current that's going on below all these people, then we can be better informed about how, we vote and choose to support these people. Right? So, a lot of this stuff actually comes from the work of Nikola Tesla, who was, in my opinion, a good guy. If you want to, do team good guys and team bad guys, I would put Tesla on the good guys and Edison maybe on the bad guys. Just for whatever I've heard about Tesla, I think he was actually trying to help humanity by discovering free energy. He died alone and penniless, so that should tell you something about him being a good person. I really don't appreciate the appropriation of his name on that crappy car. I think if he built a vehicle, it would have been like 100 times cooler than a Tesla, but whatever. So in the 19th century, he began studying the effects of electromagnetic frequencies on humans. His research was originally designed to liberate mankind through free energy, and it was stolen and corrupted by the military-industrial complex. So he discovered the brainwaves. Maybe not him alone, but he definitely was on the forefront of this, discovering alpha waves and things like that. So he discovered that alpha waves in the human brain are between 6 and 8 hertz. The wave frequency of the human cavity resonates between 6 and 8 hertz. All biological systems operate in the same frequency range. The human brain's alpha waves function on this range, and the electrical resonance of the earth is between 6 and 8 hertz. Thus, our entire biological system, the brain, and the earth itself work on the same frequencies. Now, those are going crazy right now. If you all look at Schumann resonance and solar flares, they are like going haywire. So that's something to pay attention to if you are into this kind of stuff. What's up, Slowboy Whiteford? I'm glad you made it. Natoski, we are all wrenched up today. I love it. I love seeing you guys here. Throw some donuts in my mouth. Or you can donate on the dono chat. Here is the link for that. I appreciate it. So then you've got another Dr. Alan Fry, who was a biophysicist at GE's Advanced Electronics Center and contractor for the Office of Naval Research. He discovered in 1958 that the human auditory system responds to electromagnetic energy in a portion of the radio frequency spectrum. He said that the human auditory system and a table radio may be 1 order of magnitude apart in sensitivity to radio frequency energy. And I know David Icke talks about this a lot, 5 sense reality, right? And who did he do that show with Alex? I can't find it anywhere. I was stoked to see that they were going to do a show together because they were kind of like arguing on Twitter. And I was like, oh no, conspiracy daddies, don't argue, right? So Dr. Alan Fry, he experimented with microwave syncing to transmit spoken word directly into the audio cortex and also developed the induction of heart seizures by beamed electromagnetics. This is the classic conspiracy guy phenomena, is the heart attack ray guns, right? They're like, they can just point it at you and give you a heart attack. So his work was carried on by Dr. Michael Persinger, who stated that all consciousness is due to electromagnetic patterns generated within the brain. What we do is imitate what the brain normally does and apply it experimentally. There was a meeting, like a DoD or Pentagon meeting, talking about how they can turn off your connection to God. I'll have to look that up for next time. That just popped in my head. If anybody in the chat room knows what I'm talking about, just go ahead and pop it in there, because it was a whole class or a lecture or presentation about how people who believe in God, they can actually reverse this. And then also people who have gotten the stabbies have also reported that they no longer felt a connection to the divine. So that's a really weird phenomenon too. So Michael Persinger and his ilk, they were working on perfecting a means to make subjects feel like they had been abducted by aliens or had an encounter with angels or God. So then we get Captain Paul Tyler, director of the U.S. Navy's Electromagnetic Radiation Project, and he said, with the right electromagnetic field, for example, you might be able to produce the same effects as psychoactive drugs. Using the technologies of electrical stimulation of the brain, one can evoke hallucinations as well as fear and pleasure. It could literally manipulate the human will at will. And this is the heart of exactly what we were talking about last week, and what we are always sort of touching on, is that sorcerers are trying to take over your will and make it match their will. And this is how mind control works. Natoski says, I remember hearing how the stubby testers were reporting that. Yeah, stubby. Yeah, I like that word too. Don't get your stubby or your stabby. The stubby is the BOOSTER. Stabbies and stubbies. Then we get to Dr. Jose Delgado, and if you've ever done any studies on MKUltra, you're going to run into him. I did find one of his books actually at a library book sale next to Stanford University in San Francisco. So I thought that was interesting. They're really expensive now, but I snagged that one several years ago, and Jay dips into it from time to time for his shows too. So his research on the human brain, and he has been publishing results and papers since 1952. He was a professor of physiology at Yale, and his research included behavior modification, altering migratory movements, and genetic mutations caused by ELF frequencies. So Delgado began with electrodes and discovered that wireless effects were possible. He found that by changing the frequency and waveform of an experimental subject, he could completely change their thinking and emotional state. So in his book, physical control of the mind, Delgado quoted UNESCO's constitution. Remember, UNESCO, they sponsor Small World at Disneyland. And the last time I went to their front page of the internet, it was a giant picture of a stabby going into a kid's arm, and it said "No child left behind." So that's pretty creepy. You can interpret that in 2 ways. So he said in his book, since war begins in the mind of men, it is in the minds of men that the defenses of peace must be constructed. And they always do this under the guise of peace, right? We just want world peace, guys. We just, if everybody could just get along, we wouldn't have to Neuralink you and chip you and satanically ritually abuse you if you just, it doesn't even make sense. They're totally gaslighting you. They don't want peace, they want money, and they want power, because Satan is a tyrant, right? The psychology of evil, that doesn't even really make sense, actually, because evil's not even a thing. It's a lack of a thing. But I just thought that sounded pretty catchy. So meanwhile, on the other side, in the 50s, the Soviets had moved way ahead of the United States in their development of mind war technology. They had perfected a device called LIDA, which produced an ELF pulsing field. LIDA was used to put prisoners of war into a trance so that secrets could be extracted from them more easily. The Soviets went on to discover that by slight manipulation, by reversing brain polarity, they could induce telepathic hypnosis. So this all sounds out there, but it does have its practical applications. And one of those is HARP. Remember HARP, the High Active Auroral Research Project in Alaska? That's a classic conspiracy guy thing. If you bring up HARP at a party, I'm sure you're gonna not have a lot of friends. But in 1958, there was a boy named Patrick Flanagan who went to the United States Patent Office with what he called the neurophone, which was a device that transmits acoustic information directly into the brain by means of an electromagnetic field. They laughed him out of the building until in 1967 he showed that he could make a deaf person hear. So the neurophone had many applications as an enhanced learning machine, or as a brain-to-computer interface, which is what Neuralink is going to be. But the potential misuse is even greater, obviously. Okay? Who is falling for this? Get a brain chip. Probably the same people who are going to get stubbies. So the neurophone became, in the hands of the military, it became an ELF array, an extremely low frequency array called HARP, which stands for High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project. So HARP is the largest ionospheric heater in the world. It is a reversal of a radio telescope transmitting instead of receiving ELF waves. HARP can manipulate weather patterns. It can affect ecosystems. It can knock out electrical systems and communications while altering moods and mental states. I think, I don't know, it might also have something to do with chemtrails, like HARP and chemtrails working together to do something. Oh, and they found out, y'all remember Glittergate? Like, somebody figured out that the bulk of all of the glitter produced goes to one buyer, and they wouldn't say who it was. Send me something if you heard of Glittergate. This was like maybe last year. So everyone was trying to find out what do they use so much glitter for? Who is buying all the glitter and where's it going? So it was the I think it was the military, and they're spraying it along with fiberglass in the sky for radar and stuff like that. Now that's the cover story, but who knows what they're using all that glitter and fiberglass spraying it in the air for. So the harp, the equipment beams focus energy up to the ionosphere, and from there it can manipulate Earth's resonance field and all the beings within it. In the foreword to the book, Angels Don't Play This Harp, it says, as a result of these personal research experiences, I am acutely aware of the potential misuse of harp technology for the implementation of electronic global mind control. So this is right from Flanagan himself. Patrick Flanagan, the one who, at 14, tried to get the neurophone patented. So here I have a picture of the Schumann resonance and your little brain. This is your brain on resonance, on harp. This is your brain on harp. Dr. Crispy's up. What? Hello, how are you? Glad you made it. Oh, Dr. Crispy, you're supposed to tell me your least favorite song. Moldy Apple sent me a super chat because she wants me to sing you a song that you hate. JC Owens says, glitter is used for chaff on military aircraft. They deploy it when there are enemy fighters locked in it. Scrambles the targeting systems. Yeah. So that's where all the glitter's going. Waiting for Dr. Crispy's least favorite song. Crashman says, hello Jamie, love when you and Jay stream. Yeah, those are the most fun. They don't get the most views, but that's when we are cracking up the most and having the best time. So whenever it's me and Jay on a movie stream, you know we're going to have a good time. So where are we? Harp. Okay, so Earth is wrapped in a donut-shaped magnetic field known as the ionosphere. Donut. Send me some ionospheric donuts. Make it rain donuts in the chat here. Someone named Dr. Bernard Eastlund discovered a method of manipulating the Schumann energy. His patent method and apparatus for altering a region in the Earth's atmosphere, ionosphere, and or magnetosphere was applied for in 1985, and the Department of Defense sealed it under secrecy order using the National Security Act. So now we're getting somewhere. The Schumann resonance is the wave frequency created by the cavity or sphere within a sphere of the electromagnetic field around the Earth and the Earth itself. The shape and amount of energy create a particular frequency. This was predicted mathematically by Winifred Otto Schumann in 1952. The limited dimensions of the Earth cause this waveguide to act as a resonant cavity for electromagnetic waves in the ELF band. I know this is really sciencey and technical, but you gotta understand how much more advanced the military is than what we even know about. Did they even teach you stuff like this at school? Did they even talk about like Schumann resonance and the ionosphere, the magnetosphere? I don't know. All you public school people, do you know about Donut Earth? I mean, you're all like, is it flat Earth or globe Earth? No, it's Donut Earth. So the limited dimensions of the Earth cause this waveguide to act as a resonant cavity for electromagnetic waves in the ELF band. Normally, the standing wave within the Earth ionosphere cavity is approximately 7.83 Hertz. This frequency can alter slightly due to perturbations. For example, when the solar flares strike the planet, these Earth brainwaves are identical to the spectrum of our brainwaves, as Tesla also discovered. So we are indeed connected to our environment. This isn't stupid Gaia woo stuff. This is the mystery of creation and the wonderful things that we can discover about ourselves and how God created us in our environment. It's not evolutionary, it's a perfect place for us to be. I know we've talked about Isaac Bonowitz before, but he kind of predicted this. He said in his thesis, Real Magic, where he got the degree for thaumaturgy from Berkeley, he describes that a machine will be able to read minds and send out thoughts of its own. The device he described before it even existed was identical to harp. He was discussing Psywar in his thesis written more than 20 years before the creation of harp. So this absolutely does go along. Technology and sorcery go hand in hand. Someone says, how much of your followers think we actually went to Mars? We can never pass the dome. Some people enjoy listening to the music of lights. Okay. Yeah, I don't know about my followers, but me, I don't think we've ever been anywhere. I think the moon landing is ridiculous. Sorry, Matt Walsh, you can double down on that all you want, but it is retarded to think about all of the facts about that, and I still believe that we actually went to the moon. And then if you watch when India just went to the moon, I mean, that's laughable also. Mars, no one's going anywhere, you guys. This is stupid. Mars that's a metaphor for the Aeon of Horus and for war. So if we're all going to Mars, it's just a code for we are all going to war. Okay. So Elon Musk can take 2 seats. No one's going to Mars. Well, Day Gyre was there last week. In your dreams. And they actually, I mean, who is recording the footage of them getting out of the lunar lander? I'm sure there's some kind of official explanation for that, but it's like, where was the lunar lander on the rocket? Did it like inflate like one of those emergency rafts or something? I mean, just everything about it sounds ridiculous. They made a phone call to President Nixon in the White House from the moon. Yeah, sure. So Isaac Bonowitz's theories rest solidly on Professor I.M. Kogan, chairman of the Bioinformation section of Moscow. In his highly technical paper, The Information Theory Aspect of Telepathy, Dr. Kogan shows mathematically that the human body produces more than enough energy to create long-standing radio frequency waves that reach the ionosphere, which act as a carrier for telepathic information. And not just this, your heart has a range of frequencies that it broadcasts out. I think I have a picture of that actually in here. There's this Institute of Heart Math, and you know, your heart is an electrical thing. Where is it at? And it reaches out. Guess how far it reaches out? 6 feet. So when they tell you to stand 6 feet apart from each other, it's so you can't feel anybody else's electromagnetic aura. Okay? Maybe we'll read that at the end. Any donuts? Let's look. I still didn't see Dr. Crispy's least favorite song. I did get one donut, $1 donut, $7.77. Says, thank you for your service in the InfoWar from Travis. You are so welcome, Travis. Thank you for coming to this silly show. What's up, Baselit Analyzer? We're all wrenched up today. Good to see you. He's been crushing it lately. He's been doing True Detective. That was really good. Him and Jethro did... Oh, it's slipping my mind. Put it in there. Baselit Analyzer, what you and Jethro did, that show. What are we talking about? Oh, how far your heart vibes go. About 6 feet. So I haven't seen this too much, but they were talking a while ago about how advertisers are using directed radio frequencies to put their message directly into your head. We were talking about that before. Voice to Skull. Twin Peaks. That's it. Baselit and Jethro did Twin Peaks. They crushed it. It was really good. Fire Walk with Me. Yeah. And we were talking about the symbol of the rose, and the Garmin Bosia and all that. So there was an outdoor billboard that displayed an ad for a show called Paranormal State, which was a ghost theme series premiering on A&E. They used special technology to transmit sound so close to you that you think it's inside your head. As you walk by, the sound of a woman's voice whispers a chilling message. Who's that? Who's there? It's not your imagination. The technology is created by Holosonic, and the device is effectively an audio spotlight that can project sound literally right into your ears. So how many people with schizophrenia or other mental problems are just kind of like being used as test subjects for this stuff, right? One genre of magic, ESP or telepathy, operates on the same electromagnetic spectrum as radio waves. They say basically every human body is a walking radio station broadcasting and receiving on ultra-long wavelengths of the standard electromagnetic energy spectrum, and 99% of all instructions for casting spells are ways of changing your neural system. Who said that? I think that was Isaac Bonowitz. Yes, Real Magic, Isaac Bonowitz. Talking about casting spells using electromagnetic energy and ultra long wavelengths. So these neural patterns that happen through rituals link together, creating something called a switchboard or a meta pattern they talk about in occult, or mass mind, which is the common sea of consciousness shared by all individuals linked together like an invisible psychic internet. Jung called this the collective unconscious, and that's why people groupthink, right? That's why you can't get to somebody, because they are linked up to this meta pattern. So, Dayjire gives $7.99 super chat. Thank you so much. Why did you come to Australia? Would you and Jay come back for a tour? We came because we were invited and put up. So that's why. They said, if you get here, you can stay with me and I will take care of you for the entire, month that you're here. And so that's why. We had a grand time. I loved Australia. I thought it was beautiful. I thought the people were lovely. It's a little zone theory, but that was, I guess, the time and the crowd that we were hanging out with at that time. But I have nothing but good things to say about Australia and Australians. I know that you guys are very heavily locked down during the COVID, and your government is very corrupted. We did go to Canberra. That was a weird place. Canberra, the capital of Australia, it had a very bad energy. I know that there's a lot of SRA stuff coming out of that place, so I can testify that I did not like Canberra, but I did love where we were at, Byron Bay and Nimbin, and Sydney was really neat. We also got to meet Max Egan and spent a lot of time with him. We got to meet, who's that guy that did that Simatics movie? I met him in Nashville again, just last year. Ben something. Do y'all remember that conspiracy classic Simatics? If you remember, put his name in there. I think it's Ben something. Natalie Dodd sends Australian $1.49 and a piece of pie. Thank you. Let's celebrate their first super on life. Thank you for that pie and the Australian $1.49. I appreciate that. Where are we? Oh, we're talking about collective unconscious. Why is everyone a zombie? So this is really where the sorcerers can do their best work in the collective unconscious. So the thought waves of 7 billion people on planet Earth also create the atmosphere, and it affects everyone either consciously or unconsciously. So I don't know, you guys realize how much your state of being is affecting someone else's state of being. Not just by the electromagnetic state of your heart that extends out 6 feet, but also the levels of cortisol in your body can also affect other people. They smell that, it gets on them. You know, it's like if you smell fear, you get scared. You are around somebody who is stressed, you're going to be stressed. If you're around somebody who's relaxed, you're going to be relaxed more. So hormones and cortisols and things like that can actually get into other people and affect how they behave also. So there's a potential for becoming like a Borg if these technological sorceries are implemented in certain ways. They can tune into this collective consciousness and broadcast ideas to others who will receive and act on them. There was a French magic adept called Antonin Artaud. I don't know how you say that. Artaud. He forecasted this type of mass public sorcery all the way back in the 1940s. He said, aside from trifling witchcraft of country sorcerers, there are tricks of global hoodoo in which all altered consciousness participate periodically. That's why we talk about high-profile rituals, okay? Like the Super Bowl or the Grammys, which we're going to talk about on Monday. This is the mass mind control of the collective unconsciousness, and going back to that quote, he says, that is how strange forces are aroused and transported to the astral vault, to that dark dome which is composed above all of the poisonous aggressiveness of the evil minds of most people, the formidable tentacular oppression of a kind of civic magic which will soon appear undisguised. So that is from Antonin Artaud. So are they really developing technologies to turn you into a robot, or are they just making robots and then they're just going to depopulate? And it's funny because we're going to do a sex bot AI show very soon, because I've been talking about this at least for 3 years, and now it's becoming popular. AI wives, AI girlfriends, and sex bots. So maybe we should save that for next time. So let's talk about robots for a second, and golems. You guys know about golems? Those Jewish ghoulies that you can make out of mud, little dirt men. So that is an old type of prototype of a robot or a slave or a zombie. I did make this little artwork for the book. This is the Golem of Prague, and here's harp in the background. So a golem is something, it's an artificial man that you create through magic. So here's another super chat. Jimmy, $1.49 and a piece of pie. Thank you, Jimmy. I appreciate that. God is King says, thoughts on Rob Skiba? Yeah, I read a lot of Rob Skiba, like in the 2010 through 2013 maybe. He was actually on the old show a lot. So his books were pretty good. I haven't checked up on him in a while, but he's, a solid Protestant UFO researcher. He's on the same mindset that aliens are demons also. So yeah, I would say Rob Skiba is somebody, if you are interested in aliens and demons, it's pretty solid stuff. Elon Muskrat says most normies these days are golems. Yeah. So one of the first sci-fi stories actually was written by a woman, Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein, which is a classic. It was more of a cautionary tale of the disasters of will and ambition, where a fanatical scientist steals dead bodies from their graves and assembles them to form a creature that he activates by electromagnetism. So there's your technology, electricity, scientism, metropolis. So Frankenstein's monster was simply a modern version of the golem, or the primitive idea of a robot or a mind control slave. So golem is a Hebrew word for shapeless mass. This is what most of the people are turning into right now. It is talked about by ancient Kabbalists and an artificial man-like being created either by carving wood, clay, wax, or mud, or by screwing together pieces from assorted dead bodies, just like Frankenstein. It was brought to life by carving a sacred name into it. When the planets are aligned properly, the rabbi will summon the demon Ashtaroth to receive the magic word, to animate the golem by writing on his forehead the word emet, which means truth or reality. When he rubs out the first letter, the remaining word means dead and would cause the golem to crumble to dust. The golem had no mind and was a perfect slave for the magician who had created him. In the Talmud, Adam was initially created like a golem when his dust was kneaded into a shapeless husk. So that's Talmud. That's not Bible. This is Jewish mysticism. This isn't Bible. What's going on? Yeah, the Golem of Prague. That's actually a kid's book now too. So in 1915, writer, director, and actor Paul Wegener told the story of the Golem in 3 films that made up the first horror series ever created. They are based on a legend in Jewish mysticism about an astrologer, Rabbi Loew, who predicted doom for the Jews in the 16th century Prague. According to a decree from the emperor, they were to be expelled from the city or killed for practicing black magic. To protect the Jewish community, the rabbi constructed the golem out of clay and brought it to life through rituals and Hebrew incantations. There's also an X-Files episode about the golem. Do y'all remember that one? As the golem grew, it became increasingly violent, killing Gentiles and spreading fear. In the end, the emperor begs the rabbi to destroy the golem, promising to stop the persecution of the Jews. So a lot of scholarly books leave out the dark side of Kabbalah, and that's why y'all are here for Defense Against the Dark Arts. The dark side of Kabbalah is concerned with black magic, dealing with demons, and BLOOD sacrifice. Attempts to create golems, zombies, robots, soulless bodies, or slaves out of people are perhaps the most famous examples of practical sorcery. Sorcerers love robots. They need them. They need to create a planet of illusions where your thoughts and your ideas and your creative force are subject to their command. Their world is a constant battle to control our unconscious mind through sound, symbols, and words. From hidden symbols to invisible weapons technology, the modus operandi of the sorcerer is mind control, and his main source of power is you. All we have to do is, it's not really a just do this thing. It's like you have to learn about all of these things that have been implemented to control you, and one by one try to disengage yourself from these. So, you know, what I see what they're doing is they're literally trying to create Planet Hollywood where everything is an illusion. Everything is a simulacra. Everything is fake and gray. And that is what sorcerers do. So here is the little picture I made just to illustrate that black magicians and technology and robots go hand in hand, skipping off into the abyss together. And then I wrote a silly fake ad for a pharmaceutical called Zombital, because that's what they do. They just zombify you, right? Natashki said, Golem reminds me of spirit cooking. Yeah, could be. So what we are doing is going over my very first book written in 2010, published in 2012. We're going to skip the Slack magic for now, just because I don't want to get into it, but I have definitely renounced a lot of these things. I've changed my mind. I am properly catechized in the Orthodox Church now. I do not do any magic or occult practices, but I am illustrating for you guys what the dangers are, what the difference is, trying to save you from all the zone theory that I went through. I mean, not all of it's garbage, but, you know, if you don't get to the right place, then you didn't take the right way. So here we are talking about psychology, talking about evil, talking about Sigmund Freud. So me and Jay did a show maybe three years ago about C.S. Lewis and Sigmund Freud, and it's a book called The Question of God. It's called The Question of God, C.S. Lewis and Sigmund Freud Debate God, Love, Sex, and the Meaning of Life. And so if you're interested in the contrast between a Christian perspective and a secular perspective, this is a good book. And it was a good show to tune in. But I did learn a lot about Freud. Just flipping through here, he was not a very happy person. He's a very frustrated person. I just landed on the sexual life of Freud. Okay, let's read this for posterity for a couple minutes. What does it say? Freud lived his sexual life in strict compliance to the traditional code of sex within marriage with complete fidelity or abstinence. Okay. You know, what I did learn is that so many people were coming to Freud with stories of abuse, XEX abuse, SA, SRA, and he didn't believe it. He thought it was so crazy that he made up that whole Oedipus theory because he thought his patients were lying about being molested. Have you guys ever heard that before? Freud did not marry until he was 30. He married Martha Bernays, which we're going to talk about in 1 second, because Edward Bernays is the American pioneer of the field of public relations. He was a CIA affiliate, and that whole book called Propaganda. So that is a super conspiracy classic. We should have like a book club of just like the most oldest based conspiracy books, like Conspiracy for Babies. Propaganda by Edward Bernays is one of those. So I'm just flipping through this book about Freud right here. They do have some things about combing. I think we'll skip over that. So let's get into psychology, and what I did here let's make a whole collage of Psychology Inc., I called it. Who has the monopoly on life? And at this point, it was all Disney. Disney's going down now because, you know, go woke, go broke. But back in 2010, Disney was on top. They were like the too big to fail. So I made this whole collage of all of their affiliate companies. They own Touchstone, A&E, ABC, Soap Opera, ABC Sports, Dimension Films, Miramax, W Magazine, Marvel. And they just kept going. Hollywood Pictures. So this isn't even... They have cruise lines. They have anything that you can imagine. There's a Disney version of it. So here we start off with Sigmund Freud from Vienna. He basically thought up this new theory about human nature that shaped what our culture thinks about it today. So his ideas about how the mind works have become an accepted part of society, and his theories are today's standard for psychiatrists. So Freud devised a method he called psychoanalysis by using hypnosis, analyzing dreams, and practicing free association, in which patients would lie on a couch and report their spontaneous thoughts. This was where talk therapy came from. By doing this, he discovered what he said were powerful sexual and aggressive forces hidden deep within us, which were the remnants of our animal past. His hypothesis is that these forces are an unilluminated part of the mind, separate from the conscious mind, which is constantly at work molding our thoughts, feelings, and actions. He called it the superego, unconsciousness, or the subconscious. It never sleeps, and its power is unknown back then. It guides people in many ways, and when properly employed, they think the subconscious can perform miracles, and that's not true. So like we were saying before, the subconscious is what the sorcerers are trying to tap into. They're trying to tap into your emotions, your inspirations, your imagination, your memory. And this is their source of power. Sabrina Fair gave me 3 donuts. Thanks, man. Make it rain donuts in here. Let's check the donuts. Ooh, I got 3 more. 5 donuts. Kristen. It says, Crispy's most hated song is Copacabana by Barry Manilow. How does that go? The Copacabana. Is that it? At the Copacabana. I'm not a Barry Manilow. I'm not a fanalow. So let's see what... How does it go? Copacabana. At the Copacabana.
Get a sausage burrito.
You can't hear it because then it will kick me off. How do we go? Alright, I'm listening to it. Crease sends 10 donuts. Thank you for sharing the Russ Did Star clip. He was one of the few people talking about what's really going on with the dark side. People need to hear it. Love your streams. You're killing it. God bless. Thank you. Thank you, Crease. Sabrina Fair, $20. Thank you for the stream. It is important to be aware how profoundly the few manipulate the many. Heading back to Italy in May. What? Yvonne, what are you doing in Italy in May? That sounds fun. Okay, here we go. At the Copacabana. Music and passion were always the fashion. Copa, her name was Lola. Moldy says, yeehaw! What's up, Moldy? Hey, I'm throwing out wrenches. You want one? At the Copa. Yeah, I could see why this would be your least favorite song, Crispy. At the Cobra. Okay. Moldy Apple has a wrench now. Music and passion were always the fashion at the Copacabana. Okay. Alright, that's enough fun. Back to being serious. Except for I screwed up the chat. Sorry, guys. Such a creepy, cheesy song. Yeah, I know. Now I'm stuck. And my tongue is out. Are we frozen? Send me some donuts if we're not frozen. At the Copacabana. Okay. Talking about psychology. Oh, at 5, Jay and Jim Bob are going on. At 7, Jay and Tristan are going on. So you have all day to spend with us. After we're done here, it's straight to Jay and Jim Bob, and then after that, it's straight to Jay and Tristan talking about There Will Be Blood. So we watched that last night. That was pretty interesting. My favorite part of that movie is when he's like, I drank your milkshake. I drank it up. So the unknown power that we're talking about, this dynamic energy, the subconscious, it kind of frightened Freud. He believed that human conflicts were the result of the repression of primitive instincts hidden in the psyche. Now, that talking about the psychology of evil, and when you go and try to understand, like, why would he chop up people into 30 parts and eat their fingernails and all, like, there's only 7 reasons why people are shitty. Okay, and they made a movie about that with Brad Pitt. So there's, you know, the 7 deadly sins, the passions, how those run wild. You add into that abuse, neglect, and being demonized. That's how you get people with evil psychology, right? Is Rachel here? Rachel Wilson! What's up, Rachel? We're talking about psychology. We're talking about Sigmund Freud, Edward Bernays, the psychology of evil people and corporations and sorcerers, and how they are trying to usurp your will and your imagination. And how Freud thought that human conflicts were the result of repression. That's not true. He taught that if these forces were left uncontrolled, it would lead societies into chaos and destruction. He believed the advent of World War I was evidence of the terrible truth of his findings. Feelings, he thought, must be repressed because they were too dangerous. So this is where you get the whole idea of, like, you're acting out because you're sexually repressed, and if you slept with 50 people, you would feel so much better. Or if you lived like a, 304, then you would be fulfilling your feminine destiny. So this is where we get a whole bunch of psychobabble, as they would call it, about the motivations of why people do things and why we have things like wars and serial killers and stuff like that. So Goethe's Faust, remember we were talking about the Faustian bargain with the sorcerers last time. I'll pop that picture up right one more time. Manly P. Hall's Faustian bargain with Mephistopheles. So Freud was a fan of Goethe's Faust also. He used it as the literary text most frequently cited and referred to. It was the piece of literature that most powerfully influenced him throughout his life. The central event of the work is a pact between Faust and the devil. Much of Freud's theory about dream interpretation comes from his occult research and his mythic identification with Satan and Venus. So Freud was an extraordinarily controversial figure even in his day. His followers adored him, and his critics found his views to be outlandish and sometimes referred to him as the most consummate of charlatans. Even today, feelings about him run to either extreme. People tend to love him or hate him. So was Freud a genius with the world's greatest insights into the human psyche, or did he just have really good PR? I'm going to choose the latter because his nephew was the godfather of PR, like we were just talking about, propaganda, Edward Bernays. And he was the one to formally introduce the idea of psychology and consumerism, or the psychology of shopping. And if you want to learn more about Freud, we did cover this book, The Question of God, C.S. Lewis and Sigmund Freud. Jay and I did this about 3 years ago, and it came out really good. So let's talk about Bernays for a sec. So anyone who's ever lived through a Black Friday could, like Pink Freud, they could, like Freud, rapidly begins to lose faith in humanity. But do people tend to act like this on their own, like Freud believed, or is there something else guiding them? And I'm on team manipulation, for sure. We've just been talking all about psychotronics, psychic weapons, Schumann resonance, technology, V2K, voice to skull interface, all of these weird, crazy technological advancements for mind control. We were talking about Jose Delgado, Neuralink, Pink Freud. Now I have Copacabana stuck in my head, you guys. What am I going to do? At the Copacabana. Bernays was terrible. Yeah. He was a sorcerer. Haha, get it? Bernays sauce? No? Anybody? Okay. So Edward Bernays is the father of modern public relations. He was Freud's American nephew, and his effects on popular culture were as great as his uncle's. Bernays was a press agent hired to promote America's participation in World War I based on Woodrow Wilson's decree that the U.S. was fighting against old empires to bring democracy to Europe. He proved so skillful at portraying war efforts in the press that at the end of the war, he was asked to attend the Paris Peace Conference. President Wilson's reception at the Treaty of Versailles astounded Bernays and the other propagandists at how the crowds heralded Wilson as an icon of democracy and liberator of the people. They had made a hero. Bernays wondered if the same type of mass persuasion was possible in peacetime. So they're taking wartime tactics, military strategies to target enemy populations, and they bring it over here and say this would be perfect for the American public. Her name was Lola. Why? Why did you do that to me? I agree with Dr. Crispy now. That song's terrible. It's worse than, I don't know, what's worse, Monster Mash or Barry Fanilow? So Bernays turned propaganda, which sounded negative, and he called it the Council of Public Relations. He went to New York and he set up his council determined to alter the consciousness of the new industrial society. With millions clustered together in cities, he wanted to control the way these crowds thought and felt. Armed with Freud's book, A General Introduction to Psychoanalysis, he used his uncle's theories to form public opinion so that they would think such manufactured opinions were their own. Bernays was hired by William Randolph Hearst to promote his line of women's magazines, which included Harper's Bazaar, Elle, Marie Claire, Cosmopolitan, Good Housekeeping, Red Book, 17, and many more. Bernays was the first person to show automobile companies how they could sell cars as symbols of male sexuality and prowess. I mean, they still do that. Now that's how they sell hamburgers now. You remember that Paris Hilton Carl's Jr. commercial? I mean, that was like peak psychology with the ketchup and mustard dripping down. Like, why is every food a sexual thing? Like, in commercials, it's always like, the chocolate's dripping down and exploding with whipped cream. And, I mean, it's really obvious that they're trying to link sex and food together in food commercials, right? Her name was Lola. Jamie, look up Scat Brothers Life at the Outpost. It's even worse. Okay. Send me things I'll hate. Sabrina says, I've been noticing the experts talking about aliens needing bodies to occupy. They are going to change what alien means. Forget flying saucers. That is so 1995. Yeah. And the alien invasion is also going to be partly people identifying as alien now. And you're going to have to respect that. Her name was Lola. Elon Muskrat says, I saw a very sexual description of either figs or dates at Costco. Yeah. So, in 1939, New York hosted the World's Fair, and Edward Bernays was the central advisor. He insisted that the theme be the link between democracy and capitalism. He wanted people to think that you couldn't have real democracy in anything but a capitalist society. So here is the first link to our democracy and the capitalist pigs that everybody's complaining about nowadays. Bernays was the one to solidify that these things go hand in hand in America. This all went in tandem with the golden age of Hollywood also, where product placement and movies came together in a perfect storm of American psychological overhaul. This is a very important time in the steering of the mass psyche of the American people. So his most dramatic experiment was to persuade women to smoke cigarettes. In 1929, the president of the American Tobacco Corporation hired Bernays to find a way to break the taboo of women smoking in public. Bernays decided to stage his event at the New York Easter Day Parade. He hired a group of rich debutantes to hide cigarettes under their clothes and join the parade. At a given signal from him, they were to light up the cigarettes dramatically. Bernays informed the press that a group of suffragettes were preparing a protest by lighting up what they called torches of freedom. The next day, it was in the newspapers all across the United States and around the world, and the sale of cigarettes to women began to rise. Bernays had made them socially acceptable with a single symbolic ad. Isn't that crazy? Pretty much overnight, women began to smoke because they saw women smoking and saying this is for freedom and democracy. More cigarettes and democracy. So meanwhile, at the Tavistock Institute, we talked about Tavistock. Did we talk about that one in Sorcerers, Robots? I think so. It's not Zone Theory. It was Sorcerers, Robots. So, like, the very last one we were talking about, the think tank of Tavistock, which started when they were studying the effects of PTSD, or what they called shell shock back then, on the soldiers coming home from World War I. So the main objectives of the Tavistock at this time was to achieve the degradation of women. Bernays was Tavistock's top consultant up until the time George Bush became president. In the 1930s, the promotion of Skittles became rampant, not out of suppressed desires, but as a means of shocking the old establishment of morals. You always have to have a revolution, right? This was also a crucial stage of developing the plan that called for feminine behavior to be reduced to a lower standard of morality than ever thought possible. This is where your feminism coming in. If Rachel, what's up? It's all connected. Radical changes were forced upon women of the time which seemed impossible to stop and has quickened at a remarkable pace since hemlines reached the knee. Anyone who's ever seen MTV's show Jersey Shore or Bravo's Real Housewives can witness how well this psychology has worked. What's a current example of Jersey Shore or Real Housewives? Is there? There's got to be one. Can you think of any? Let's see. There's a quote here. Let me see who it's from. We're hanging out. We're singing Copacabana. His name was Lola. He had a Tesla. And yeah, Dr. John Coleman. That's a good book. The Tavistock of Human Relations. So this is kind of where I got a lot of these quotes. It says, Tavistock recognized that Jesus Christ had brought a new place of respect in the order of civilization for womanhood, which prior to his coming had not been present. Now, I've said this several times, that the treatment of women outside of Christianity is abysmal, and that's where you get these pushbacks like feminism and equality, because in a pagan society, women are second-class property, but not in Christendom. After Christ's ministry, womanhood gained a respect and a high place in society absent from pre-Christian civilization. Tavistock sought to change that, and the process began immediately after World War I. So that, again, is from the Tavistock Institute by Dr. John Coleman. I have said this many times. It's right on the money. I totally agree with that. Rachel giving me 4 100s. Yeah, exactly. If you guys like this show, go ahead and gently caress the like button. You don't have to smash it. You can just give it a little tippy tap. You can share it if you think that this is entertaining. If not, then you can just mull it over and consider yourself a very smart, informed person. Clint says, yeah, the Marxist Satanists want to destroy the American family and American way of life so they could take it over and make the New World Order and rule with the hammer and sickle. Exactly. Natasha said, Christianity cleans up the world. If I see anybody else in here that I recognize, I'm throwing out wrenches today because I like to see those things. Just have a whole chat full of mods. But I appreciate all you. We are having fun on a Thursday afternoon. It's 4 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, it's going to be Jay and Jim Bob. So we've got maybe like 30, 40 minutes to get through this. We are not even halfway through psychology. So there's going to have to be a part 2 of Psychology Inc. But we are having a grand time, and let's make it rain some donuts in this chat. How about that? I'll start it off. No, watermelons here. Have some. Can I even do that? No. I can't even chat a watermelon in my own chat room. Boomer tag. So after World War II, the overproduction of mass-produced goods transformed the way American consumers thought about products. And we're going to get into that in a second when we talk about Chinese crap. Not that China is crap, just the crap from China. It was a concern of many corporations that supply would outstrip demand, and they feared their merchandise would flood the economy. In the world of advertising, psychology offered limitless potential for manipulation. This was key to a virtually infinite need for consumption, and this would, in turn, justify an infinite process of production. They said, we must shift America from a needs to a desires culture. People must be trained to desire and want new things even before the old had been entirely consumed. We must shape a new mentality in America. Man's desires must overshadow his needs. And that is a quote from Paul Mazur at Lehman Brothers. So Bernays is the one who taught people... Oh, thank you for the watermelons. That's cute. Bernays was the ones who taught corporations how to get people to want things they don't need by marketing to their unconscious desires, and out of this came a new political idea about how to control the masses. He called this technique of opinion molding engineering consent. So remember we talked about Imagineering from Disney? This is just another offshoot of that. Engineering consent. If you like what I am throwing out there, go ahead and go watch a documentary called Century of the Self by Adam Curtis. It's another classic. So in the past, goods like shoes, nylons, even cars were promoted in functional terms for their durability. Not so much anymore. The aim of the advertisements back then were simply to show people the product's practical virtue and nothing more. But then, in the 1960s, most Americans already owned televisions, they already owned radios, they already had a refrigerator, a car, a washing machine, and these things weren't breaking down like they do today. And there was a prevailing fear in the industry that it might level off. Capitalism is gonna die. So people then had to be persuaded to buy new models or constantly updated versions of the older ones. Think of your iPhone. Think of your computers. Like, you'll never be able to own a computer for more than, what? I mean, if you wanted to work properly, what, 3 years? 4 years? iPhone, same way. This was called the principle of planned obsolescence, where commodities were produced with a deliberately limited lifespan. I'm thinking of freaking printers. Is it even possible to invent a printer that just works? I don't know. I think that's one of those, dividing by zero things, because I've never, seen a printer that just printed things and just didn't glitch out and ruin your day. Oh, and yes, someone says, and now we have these weird flickering bulbs, CF bulbs. Do not buy compact fluorescent light bulbs, please. LEDs is not as bad as the curly compact fluorescent light bulbs. If you even break one of those in your house, you might as well move, because they're full of mercury and other toxic things. Printers are evil. Where are we? So, cars, for instance, were designed to last approximately 3 years. After that, they would begin to fall apart, and the cost of repairs would be less economical than purchasing a brand new one. There was also the more sinister principle of psychological obsolescence, where designs were modified dramatically every few years to make the owners of the old models feel outdated and unfashionable. Nowhere can this be seen more clearly today than the marketing of Apple products. Excuse me. The opportunity to announce the newness of a product enabled people to flaunt pride and prosperity, while those who could not keep up are encouraged to feel shame. Once people's points of insecurity were diagnosed, they were skillfully exploited by fostering a general anxiety for just about anything: teeth, hair, skin, car, house, status. They were able to achieve the systematic creation of dissatisfaction. I can read and write. Dissatisfaction. Is that a song? Rachel says, I absolutely hate those light bulbs. Yes, they're gross. And the light is ugly. You're right. New light bulbs are designed to throw off your sleep cycle and hormones. Now, the new thing is red light at night. So turn off all of your white, even if they are just incandescent bulbs. And after the sun goes down, you're only supposed to be using red light therapy. I don't know. It's funny because I would love to be like super healthy and Ubermensch or whatever, but I cannot wake up at dawn and look at the sun. Like, my body does not want to do that. I would love to be a morning person, but that's never going to happen. I'm a swing shift person, so I'm probably going to die young. Blinky says, do you have PayPal Jamie? I sure do. I'll put it right here. There you go. If you want to send me some donuts in PayPal, I appreciate that. Let's check the donut chat scoreboard one last time. We're doing good. Make it rain. Pink donuts in the chat if you can't afford the green kind. Yeah, Clint can't wake up before noon either. I mean, noon is the latest, but I'm like a 10 a.m. person. Rachel is already on it. She only uses red, orange, or pinky tone light after the sun goes down. Yeah. William Carney says circadian rhythm only makes sense near the equator. Okay. Alright, if I wake up early, my whole day ruined. I don't know why. So what we're talking about Bernays, my consumerism, my capitalism, my democracy. I can pronounce the word dissatisfaction. So, while Bernays was becoming rich and powerful in America, Vienna and most of Europe was suffering mass inflation. So, Freud lost most of his savings, and facing bankruptcy, he turned to his nephew for help. Bernays agreed to publish his book in America for the first time, and at the same time promote the book and see to it that they were successful. So along with this book came emerging studies on the group mind, which they believe operated in the baser animal unconscious irrational level. Bernays said, if we understand the mechanism and the motives of the group mind, it is now possible to control and regiment the masses according to our will without them knowing it. And that is class, the definition of sorcery, right? So pessimistic and reclusive Freud, yeah, he was a mess. If you watch this show, you're going to figure out that secularism versus Christianity is a real thing. Freud began to write about group behavior and about how easily the unconscious and aggressive forces in humans could be triggered when they were in crowds. Fearing that he had underestimated their violent tendencies, he began to believe that people were far more dangerous than he had originally thought. So Freud did not have a very high opinion of humanity. BLA says, I only use strobe lights and Red Bull after dark. I don't think that's all they... I only light my house with disco balls after sunset, so we be having a party. And we're singing Barry Manilow today, apparently, because now I know why you hate that song, because it doesn't get out. Her name was Lola. She was a rodent. I don't know. Digital Minefield says that C.S. Lewis versus Freud book is so good. I read it after Jamie analyzed it. Well worth reading. Thank you. So, fearing that Freud had underestimated the violent tendencies of the public, he began to believe that people were far more dangerous than he originally thought. He came to the conclusion that man was a ferocious animal. In short, he didn't like people very much. He wanted to be part of a new elite that could manage the bewildered herd of beasts through psychological techniques. Bernays didn't think much of people either. All of the people whose opinions he was engineering, according to his daughter Anne Bernays, she said, it can be a little hard on people around you, especially when you make other people feel stupid. The people who worked for him were stupid. The children were stupid. And if people did things in a way that he wouldn't have done them, they were stupid. It was a word that he used over and over. Don't be stupid. And the masses, they were stupid. So that is from his own daughter, Bernays' own daughter, admitting that Edward Bernays, here's a picture of this dude. He thinks you all are stupid, and he can make you think whatever you want. Now, I've actually had to say this in confession once. Like, I guess this was during the COVID. I'm like, how could you all be so stupid? I know you're not, but you were trying my patience with that one. Not you guys. Not you and my precious chat. All my lovely viewers. You're not stupid. You're super smart. So while Freud was associating, not Freud, Bernays, thinking people are stupid, Freud and his associates may have done considerable research on behavior, but he didn't know everything, and he's certainly not the last word on human nature. There have been several scholars who opposed Freud's theories. One was a German philosopher named Herbert Marcuse. He challenged the social world, arguing that it was not a world that should be adapted to because society was corrupt, not the human psyche. So I kind of agree with that. Like, we're having a perfectly reasonable reaction to what's going on, but people think that this is all normal, and it's not. Dr. Crispy thinks that Edward Bernays can make you like Copacabana and all the Barry Manilow songs. He probably could, just by repetition. Now, if I heard that song 100 times, I'd probably like it, because now I know it. Moldy says, Kuma, 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 Chameleon. That's a good one. At the Copacabana. I'm making Moldy a moderator. Throwing out wrenches, guys. If I recognize you from here and from all the other shows, if BLA, Rachel, Cotel, Tristan, Jay, if you are a follower of all of us, I'm going to throw a wrench at you today. So, Marcuse knew the idea that you need to control people was wrong. Human beings, he said, did have inner emotional drives, but were not inherently violent or irrational. It was in fact a sick society that caused the mental illness. He taught that conforming to society and refusing to challenge authority was actually submitting to evil. I'm not saying that guy's a good saint or anything, but he did have a more cohesive idea about human nature than Freud did, right? And then you have the whole libido thing. That comes from Freud. Wilhelm Reich, who was a student of Freud, who also had a fundamentally different view. He thought that the unconscious aspect of humans was essentially good at the core, but the underlying libido, he believed that all neurosis was due to lack of O's. I don't think that's true either. I mean, sexual life can certainly change you, but I don't think that cooming is going to make your life better. So after Freud died, his daughter Anna became the acknowledged leader of the world's psychoanalytic movement. Now, psychology, now, as of today, I just read that 80% of new psychiatrists and psychologists are women. So, yikes. Yikes, bikes. Anna Freud saw her job as fulfilling her father's dream of making his ideas accepted throughout the world. She developed a theory on how to control the inner drives of the manimals. It was simple. You taught the children to conform to the rules of society. She was the one who pioneered the concept that conformity equals happiness. And then by the 1950s, conformity had become the basis on which a prosperous society was to be established. Corporations began to employ psychological techniques Testing and profiling was used to establish normality and ensure conformity. Nowadays, normal is waking up and getting dressed in clothes you wouldn't normally wear, sitting in traffic in a car you don't even own yet, to get to a job with people you don't even like, but you need that job to pay for the clothes and the car and the house that sits empty all day so you can afford to live in it. Act normal, go to work, watch TV, obey the law, and tell yourself that you are free. Don't forget to tune into the Super Bowl and get your Taylor Swift tickets, because anything that goes against the Borg is not healthy, according to Anna Freud. Kundalini. Yeah, the Kundalinis will flow. Yes, Moldy Apple now has unlimited cosmic power. BLA says Kuma Cabana at the Kuma. Oh gosh. So in the past, psychiatrists were far more honest and vocal about the future ramifications of their work. And so we were talking about mad scientists like Dr. Jose Delgado and Dr. Ewan Cameron. They went public with the idea that no human being has an inherent right to his own personality. The true role of psychiatry, they said, was to reinvent human character, behavior, and personality from the ground up. They wanted to have physical control of the mind toward what they called the psycho-civilized society. So this is the beginning of the re-education camps that you're going to be forced into if you do not agree with the Skittles and the party line and all of the crazy crap that they try to foist on you. If you push back against this, it's going to be an army of weirdo lady psychologists throwing you into FEMA camps and re-educating you to conform to them because they think you're stupid. In a speech given at the Conference on Education on September 11, 1954, George Brock Chisholm said, "To achieve world government, it is necessary to remove from the minds of men their individualism, loyalty to family, tradition, national patriotism, and religious dogmas." So this is the Borg of Star Trek. So I wrote this stuff starting in maybe 2009, published in 2012. This says the issue of mental health is about to become a huge one. No kidding. You don't say. Even Tristan is making jokes about his mental health now. Is your mental health good? Paul's here. Oh my gosh. What's up, Paul? Lady psychologist be like Wendy trying to steal my Peter Pan shadow side. Yeah, right? And women are more conformist than men because we're weaker. And so mental health is now a huge issue. Back then, the spokesperson for that was none other than Lady Gaga, the representation of the new normal. At that time, she held the world's record for downloads and having the most followers on Twitter, over 32 million. That's 10 times the entire population of Australia. To make sure that all of her little monsters are receiving the best in mental health care, she will be providing psychotherapy on her upcoming Born This Way ball concert tour. Lady Gaga announced that the 2013 leg of her tour will feature the Born Brave bus, where fans can come aboard before each show and receive counseling. Wherever she performs, the Born Brave bus will follow. The advice and pep talks will come from members of the National Council for Behavioral Health. Gaga and her mother, Cynthia, came up with the idea for the Born This Way Foundation in response to the... Oh, I can't even say this. SANDYHOO. Y'all know what that is? So this is in response to that event. She said, now more than ever, our kids need access to support within their communities, including mental health services. and that is Lady Gaga's mother. Lady Gaga said on Twitter, "The Born Brave bus is a place where mental health and depression are taken seriously with no judgment. Free, real help available to all. I feel like most kids don't look for the help because they feel embarrassed. So Mom and I wanted to break the stigmas around help and make it fun." Make it fun. So I'm thinking this is all tied into that video I played for you guys at the beginning of the show, Russ Dizdar and the, what was it called? The Black Awakening or something like that. So all these people going into psychiatry, the generations of people who have been NK'd, who may be participating in this Black Awakening, is all facilitated also by these psychiatrists, psychologists, and therapists, right? Now, I have been to therapy. Yes, I have. I've done the workbooks. I have been diagnosed with issues. My therapist was an expert in what I needed. He was an Orthodox priest and a licensed therapist at the same time. So I was getting the best of both worlds. So I do not think that therapy is stupid. I do not think it's worthless. I don't think that it's a waste of money. I think it's very valuable for people who have serious traumas and problems. It was helpful to me. I feel a lot better. My mental healths are doing much better after a year of sessions with my great therapist, who, you know, was a priest and a specialist. So it's not all bad. But let's read a quote from Aldous Huxley in Brave New World Revisited. It said, "The really hopeless victims of mental illness are to be found among those who appear to be most normal. Many of them are normal because they are so well adjusted to our mode of existence because their human voice has been silenced so early in their lives that they do not even struggle or suffer or develop symptom as the neurotic does. They are normal not in what they may be called the absolute sense of the word. They are normal only in relation to a profoundly abnormal society. Their perfect adjustment to that abnormal society is a measure of their mental sickness. These millions of abnormally normal people living without fuss in a society to which, if they were fully human beings, they ought not to be adjusted, still cherish the illusion of individuality, but in fact they have been to a great extent de-individualized." That is so the blue hair people. Hold on, I'll finish it. "Their conformity is developing into something like uniformity, but uniformity and freedom are incompatible. Uniformity and mental health are incompatible too. Man is not made to be an automaton, and if he becomes one, the basis for mental health is destroyed." So it's so funny that people who want to express themselves and be individuals end up going to Hot Topic and buying those like studded wristbands and black t-shirts and checker leggings. And now it's blue hair and, you know, piercings or whatever. And the nose piercing. Why is everyone getting their nose, what is that called? The septum pierced like a damn bull. It looks terrible. It looks cute on some girls. Most girls, not really. If you have to have the right look. You have to have like kind of like a tribal look already. It could look cute and pretty, but mostly it's not a good look. Let's see. So what'd you think of that? Aldous Huxley is even saying that do not be conformed to this sick society. And is this Born Brave bus, is this really just help for at-risk youth from a concerned superstar, or could it be something more? It's always something more, right? Paul, I said manimals, yeah. Nose piercings are the new tramp stamp tattoos. Some are cute, most are not. Massive holes in earlobes. Oh, and Sabrina sent me this picture. I don't know if I can find it still. Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom going to an award show, and the new thing is going to be body mod, extreme body mod. She's looking like a freaking snail or something, and he's wearing elf ears. So mark my words, surgeries, like elective surgeries to extremely modify your body is going to be the new thing. Grimes is on that kick right now, and there's all like a meme that says R.I.P. Grimes because she's had so much surgery. Okay, here's Katy Perry getting ready. Sabrina sent me this. So here's Katy Perry with her little eye stalks or antennas or whatever, and Orlando Bloom. So get ready for the dolphin people, bunny people, whatever, dragon people. So because of these SCHOOLSHOOTINGS, from back then to now, the UN was starting to address mental health issues on a global scale. So the UN was setting up a worldwide mental health apparatus to evaluate people's emotional and intellectual stability. It will try to provide itself not only with the authority to evaluate people's mental competence, but also the authority to send people to mental institutions and re-education camps if they are not sufficiently docile and open to the appropriate level of normalcy. Who is this happening to? Oh, Jordan Peterson, right? He can't even say what he wants in Canada anymore. He's been sentenced to some kind of re-education. Who will be defined as mentally unfit in the future? Those who question mainstream media, those who question the government, the Big Nine, the global warming, what's it called now? Climate crisis, chemtrails, just about anything that is outside of the official narrative of mainstream media is going to be the people that they want to re-educate. John Anon says Gulag intake centers for people who question the narrative. Yeah, exactly. They're working on a skit right now about that. People in the Gulag. Yeah, you're not going to be edgy anymore if you don't have snail eye stalks on your head. So in the wake of the SANDHOO, you know what that means? Event, President Obama stated that mental health services must be made more available, presumably to stave off future killers. Of course, this is ridiculous since so many killers have acted under the compelling influence of SSRI, antidepressants, and other brain meds. So, and somebody mentioned Dave McGowan. Yeah, that's part of it. These drugs are proven to induce violence, and the plan would essentially make the American Psychiatric Association and all its doctors into the new psychiatric police state, right alongside local police forces like FBI, ATF, DHS, and the U.S. Marshals. Crazy, right? So we are, how much longer do we have? Do we have time for King Baby? Yeah, let's do one more section and then I gotta log off. I could go forever because I'm having so much fun. We've got all of the wrenches in here. I love you guys so much. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you so much for the donuts. We're gonna do one more section and then we're gonna go watch Jay and Jim Bob, and then we're gonna watch Jay and Tristan tonight. So this one is called The Consumer is King. In this picture I made King Baby, King Joffrey, King, who's another spoiled, stupid king. This is the American, this is what they're trying to make the American public into. This is the Aeon of Horus. This is, yeah, just the disgusting attitude of most consumers right now. So the consumption of mass-produced goods coupled with the Puritan work ethic where God rewarded hard work meant prosperity could be regarded as an indication of God's favor. This is like a pilgrim. This is a very unique American idea that wealth is more than a status symbol. It has become like a testimonial virtue that God favors you because, you're wealthy. So the consumer is the king. By the 1980s, Bernays techniques had worked so well that the American population had been transformed into a veritable consuming machine. Psychoanalysis changed from trying to get people to buy a limited range of mass-produced goods to the focus of what psychology called the self-actualizing individual. So here's another leap in psychology to get people to buy more things. It's not just based on fear that you are not conforming or just needs of products. This is the idea that you can actualize your personality by spending money on things like Subaru for Skittles, or Jeep for outdoors, or and building communities around the products that you consume. So Bernays was the first person to link people's emotional connections to products as expressions of what they called the inner self. So capitalism created the individual. So first they wanted you to conform, and then they wanted you to be self-actualized individual, but it all consists of just buying things, right? So capitalism created the individual by marketing products to his so-called inner values. These corporations began to convince people that they were unique and then offer them ways to express it. The notion that you could buy an identity replaced the idea that you were free to create one. Instead of inner animal desires being controlled for the good of society, like Freud taught, the inner self did not need to be repressed and controlled. It should be allowed to express itself. So this is getting into more of do without will. Out of this would come a new type of human being, the self. But this was an isolated and greedy self, far more vulnerable to manipulation by the sorcerers who would control them by feeding their infinite desires. So with the new self, people's wants seemed to have no limit, which was perfect for corporations. They became increasingly dependent for their identity on business. What you wear became a statement reflecting your inner self, and self-expression was reduced to what a person could afford to buy. The satisfaction of the inner desires of the self became man's highest priority. So perhaps this is the part of the spirit of Horus, the crowned and conquering child, that Crowley meant to evoke upon the earth in the 20th century. This is the spirit of childish selfishness that Bernays and his hidden masters helped create, a culture that Crowley could only dream of. It was a society composed entirely of spoiled brats. Now, anyone who's ever seen a Real Housewives or a Super Sweet 16 or any one of those Bravo shows, it's like, what is wrong with people? Technographics, what's up, nerd? Got all the wrenches in here now. Here's a picture I put up just to illustrate this. You've got your Freud, the classic image of the devil and angel on your shoulders comes from Freud's theories. The technical term for this is psychomachia, which means battle of the soul. The devil represents the id, the angel is the superego, and the person whose shoulders they stand on is the ego. So, in psychology, the self is identified with the ego, the id, the ego, and the superego are the three parts that Freud came up with, his structural model of the psyche, although these terms are not his own. They are translations. Freud himself wrote das Es, das Ich, and das Über-Ich, meaning the it, the I, and the over-I, or the I above. So this is just like the stages of a development of a child, like a baby is an id, is just an it doesn't know anything except for I need food, I need sleep, I need to be held. A child recognizes that it is separate and that other people have separate needs from his, and it's a battle between like my needs versus someone else's needs. And then the superego is like the parent, like my needs come second, and it's more of a selfless state of being, right? So the id is the unorganized part of the personality that contains the basic drives. It acts according to the pleasure principle, seeking to avoid pain. According to Freud, we are born with our id. The mind of a newborn child is regarded as completely id-ridden, in the sense that it is a mass of instinctive impulses and needs immediate satisfaction. The id wants whatever feels good at the time, with no consideration for the reality of the situation for other people's feelings. When the child is hungry, uncomfortable, in pain, too hot, too cold, or just wants attention, the id speaks up until its needs are met. The id knows no judgments of value, no good and evil, no morality. The it doesn't care about reality, only the needs of itself and not anyone else. When the id wants something, nothing else is important. Does this sound familiar? I'm sure we know some id people. Within the first 3 years, as the child interacts more and more with the world, the second part of the personality begins to develop. Freud called this part the ego. The ego recognizes the individual or the self. It is all about me, I. It understands that most people have needs and desires. However, it is the ego's job to meet the needs of the id. By the age of 5, the superego should have been developed. This is the moral part that feels a connection to people. Many equate the superego with a conscience and dictates our beliefs are right and wrong. It would be where the sense of guilt or empathy comes from by living an opulent lifestyle where others have nothing. The superego would recognize that there's no such thing as like something that's good for me and bad for you. So by locking us into our lower immature selves, the id and the ego, consumer culture has conquered our society by using our own selfish natures to do so. So instead of being childlike, which the Bible sort of extols, having the faith of a child, they are childish. So again, it's like an inversion of a virtuous Christian principle. And in that way, it is, the opposite of that thing. So instead of being childlike, people are behaving childishly, manifesting the worst possible aspect of childhood, the self-centered brat. So I think that's where we're going to have to put a pin in it, because we're about halfway done with the psychology chapter. And next time we're going to talk about the monopoly, and I have a picture of who has the monopoly on life is the question that was posed at the beginning of this chapter. You've got this from birth to death, and I will pull up that weird story that I found about the kid disappearing into the floor at the bathroom at the one of the Walt Disney parks. So if y'all have any more fun comments, donuts, questions, chuck them in my mouth right now, because we are about to log off and get ready for Jim Bob and Jay. So in the donut basket, we have William Karine, $50. Thank you so much. Freaky Freud and soy engineers toy with the mom-baby connection. Your vid on rituals and teddies convinced me to get rid of them. The result? Increased affection and verbal expression. There's no replacement for mom's hugs, not TV, fancy toys, etc. Well, great. I'm happy to hear that something I said led to increased affection and verbal expression. I love that. Thank you so much for the 50 donuts, and I appreciate that. These are the smartest people in the world that come here to this chat room, throwing out donuts and rain. What else we got? Clint says, summon by Jamie a high carbon steel wakasashi or katana. I need the samurai way. Okay. So next week, probably on Monday, if I can manage it, we're going to be doing the Grammy Super Bowl Ritual Spectacular of 2024. I've got tons of notes on what happened this year at the Grammys, and we'll probably be going over the old ones, just so we can get an idea of how all of these things like link together. So Grammy, Super Bowl, High Profile Ritual Spectacular 2024, probably on Monday. Let's do it at night. Let's do an evening one, right? Do a it just feels like a night stream. So I will let y'all know. I'm so glad you came. We'll finish this psychology maybe in 2 weeks after the Super Bowl show. Stay tuned for me and Baselit Analyzer doing Lost Symbol probably next week. And what else do I got? I got the architecture of the nation's capital ready to go on Rockfin. I just have to record that. You guys are gonna really enjoy the esoteric breakdown of all of the zodiacs in Washington, D.C. So it has more star symbolism and zodiacs than any other capital in the world ever. And we're going to be breaking that down right here on YouTube with me, Jamie Hanshaw. I'm so glad all you wrenches are here. I love you. Bass nerds, stay tuned for Jay and Jim Bob in 20 minutes. Thank you so much. Bye.